What is up, everybody? I am back to talk about another regional. Today it's going to be the Gainesville regional. Now, this one is so interesting. Of course, we have the Florida Gators, the Miami Hurricanes. What an intense rivalry. So excited to see them both in the same regional. SEC versus ACC, North Florida versus South Florida, I guess. Going to be really interesting. You also have Troy in there, who's an underrated team, as well as Ryder. I can't wait to talk about this regional, which is going to be really, really interesting. Now, of course, I'm going to start with the Gators, who finished their SEC campaign at 39 and 19. They've had a pretty good year. They ended up going 18 and 12 in the SEC, a great bounce back year from the 2025 season. Some characteristics about them are the fact that they're very streaky, which I mentioned in videos past how if you're streaky if you're streaky as the top team in the regional, it's not really a great look. I think, if you were a rider and you were really streaky, which they're not really, but if they were, it'd be much better than being a Florida. Because if you're Florida, you'd much rather be consistent than streaky, right? But I will say it does kind of put them in national championship contention as it shows like you never know with this team, right? So yeah, being super streaky isn't great. They have a great offense, which kind of goes along with being really streaky, which is pretty interesting. But the reality is about Florida is they have some really good series wins. They beat Georgia, which is like I think one of the biggest series wins of any team in the country this year. They also took down Arkansas, who's pretty good. I think should have hosted a regional. Whatever, different story. Kentucky they took down. Oklahoma they took down. And a big one, they took down Miami twice, which is of course the other big team in their regional. Unfortunately, though, a couple big losses. They lost to Texas A&M, which isn't a big deal, but High Point, losing a series to High Point is not good if you're Florida. The fact they got a top 8 seed from it, I personally think isn't great. Whatever, it's not a big deal. Their best bat is Brendan Lawson, who's had a really good year, and they have a good pitching duo of Liam Peterson and Aiden King, which I do think will help them go a long way. But I think if Brendan Lawson does well, this offense is going to pop, and therefore I do think they have a great chance to win this series or this regional. Now, Miami, like I already mentioned a little bit, they've had a pretty good season, 38 and 18, which is almost identical to Florida's 16 and 14 in the ACC. Like I mentioned, though, they ended up losing to Florida twice, which is a little bit interesting. It did happen earlier in the year, which, it shows it doesn't mean it's going to happen again, but it certainly is a point to make. Obviously, Florida has showcased that they've been the better team than Miami overall. But Miami, they do have a little bit of pop. They love winning series 2-1, which is funny. But they were really streaky earlier in the year, which kind of shows, when they ended up losing to Florida, it wasn't great for them. But when it comes to some of their series wins, they took down Wake Forest, they took down Virginia Tech. Also, I'd say two pretty decent series wins. Virginia Tech's a 2 seed. I think Wake Forest is a 2 seed as well. But they did end up losing some pretty bad ones as well. Boston College, whatever. I mean, Boston College, I don't think is very good, but they were ranked in the AP poll for a while. They are a pretty good team. Losing to Duke, though, that is not good. One of the worst teams in the ACC. They might have been the worst, actually. NC State, a team that just made their way into the tournament barely. Some bad losses that showcase that they could end up falling pretty low in this regional if things don't go their way. But they do have a really good duo. Alex Sosa, of course, Derek Williams, a really good couple of guys. They also have Rob Evans on the mound who kind of carries them in the pitching department. But yeah, overall, a good roster, a good team. We'll see if they can compete in the regional. Now, the Troy Trojans are a really weird team. They are a pretty good baseball program, which helps them out a lot. 32 and 29 this year, 17 and 13 in the conference. It's really weird. I mean, a team with 29 losses as a mid-major, kind of weird that they ended up being a 3 seed in general. But I will say some of these series wins are pretty good. They beat Arkansas State, a pretty solid team, Texas State, Louisiana, who I'm pretty high on. Those are all pretty good. They've also lost some pretty bad ones. Mercer, who I think should have been in the tournament but just missed out. Maryland, a power conference team. They also lost to Georgia Southern and App State, which is pretty bad. But overall, the team's not very bad. The problem is they're not streaky, and if you're a 3 seed, you kind of do want to be streaky. Their offense is also pretty on and off, which in theory is kind of good at times, but in this scenario, you kind of just want a team that's consistent, that's able to pop at the right time, and without being streaky, it's kind of tough to make that happen. Then finally, you have Ryder, who are 33 and 18, 22 and 8 in their conference campaign. They've had a really good year. They're really hot right now, which helps them out a lot. But like some of these mid majors in the four slot, they just haven't really played anybody. And unfortunately, it shows like they haven't had any great series wins or even like individual victories that kind of help them out a little bit. Their only bad series loss was to Delaware, which shows, I mean, they were pretty good in general in the conference. They also do have a good ace in PJ Craig, who's had 88 strikeouts this year, showcase himself a little bit. And yeah, I mean, the reality is Ryder, I think for a four seed, they're pretty good, but unfortunately, I don't think they're going to go super far in this regional. So who's actually going to come away with the Gainesville Regional? I'm going to pick the Florida Gators. They've showcased it a lot this year. They've had some really iconic wins. Only one real bad series loss, which look, it's scary. I'm not going to lie. Losing to High Point in a series is a little bit scary. It kind of shows that, if you're a rider, if you're Troy, you come into this campaign with a chance. But I do think overall Florida's the best team. They have the best or maybe the second best roster. I mean, Miami has some guys as well. But Florida overall is better. They've showcased it against Miami. Miami, I'm kind of expecting them to get a little bit colder. Some of these series losses I think are a bit unfortunate. I actually think Troy is going to end up finishing second in this regional, but Florida is going to end up being the best team. So yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I can't wait for this series to start on Friday. I'm going to have so many more videos out for you guys predicting these regionals, so make sure to tune in for more.